unassuming Saturday where we kick off our training shoes and sharpen both our wits and our swords. I'm Shifu Payne, and let's take today to celebrate a 40-year running franchise with Star Wars Day. Star Wars Day was 2 weeks ago. Do you mind? I'm trying to film a video here. Oh, I see. That's all I get. No introduction, no explanation of who I am, just dismiss and move on. You'll only be in every other video. The viewers can give you a name. What, or 2 of them? Moving on. Lightsabers. We can all admit that we all wanted one as a kid. We made the noises with our mouths, swung a stick around like it was one, and even tried holding out our hands to a rock in the hope that we would have the force and lift the rock. But just why does such a weapon hold such grip on our imagination? What is it about this glow stick on steroids that makes it so popular? Is it the jewels? The characters? The magpie-like wish for a shiny object? So let's take a closer look at these things to find out, and also stack them up to reality to see just how effective they really are. Well, first let's discuss why they hold such status. Because when you break them down, the lightsaber is just a laser sword, and lasers are a dime a dozen in sci-fi. So it's not just that they look cool, even when that is a distinguishing factor, they mean something. The lightsaber is a symbol. Starting where it all began, with A New Hope. The first time a lightsaber is shown on screen, it's given weight as an heirloom from the father Luke never knew, giving off the same sort of vibes as the chosen relic, or weapon that's given to an errant protagonist by the old wizard before going on the life-changing quest. That's exactly what it is. My point is, Luke Skywalker is, for A New Hope, our POV character, going from a small farm to a far wider universe. Keep in mind, this is all before we know Darth Vader's his father, or Leia's his sister, or anything about the Skywalker heritage, or the wider lore of this universe. It's all new to us. Luke being given the lightsaber is him being given access, a key to this massive universe. So the average viewer is placed in Luke's shoes, being shown this wider, imaginative, expansive setting, but wanting to be allowed in. This is where the appeal comes in. This sort of theme comes back in the new trilogy as Rey is given the very same lightsaber, except it's not from the perspective of someone being shown this universe for the first time. It's instead from the perspective of a viewer that has grown up with this franchise. Rey becomes symbolic of a Star Wars fan being granted access to the Star Wars universe. Maybe this is why Galaxy's Edge is so alluring. You don't just buy a lightsaber at a gift shop. You get the experience of building one yourself, picking a kyber crystal, hearing the music, receiving a blessing from Yoda himself. You become a part of the story. Just watching this experience is enough to make you cry or feel that sense of magic. Suddenly, it's all real. Okay, so we have the appeal of these, but where does the reality come in of being able to fight with them? I mean, it's all well and good swinging these about like a baseball bat, but without the nuance and without the dedication, you could just as easily cut your own hand off. Well, within the canon, there are 7 forms of combat and training that can be interpreted to have real-world counterparts to forms of fighting using a lightsaber's real-world counterpart, the sword. First up is Form 1, or Shicho. This form was the basic form, and was most likely put together during the days of the Old Republic, so early in the canon, when the lightsaber was not even a thing. There were instead proto-sabers that were connected to a battery pack and mainly covers attacking, parrying, hit points, and drills. Now certainly, there are points of comparison between Form 1 and Kendo. For one thing, it's those basic stances, the basics of parrying, thrusting, etc. But what it teaches far more is discipline. Kendo teaches to keep a close guard and always have a good defense. And the reason why this links back to Form 1 is because we have to remember that those proto-sabers, those prototype versions of the lightsabers we all know and, well, slightly critique here, is that they had an external battery pack and wiring which linked them to that battery, so they had to always keep their defense up in order to always be guarding that battery pack. So they would always have to keep their guard up, they would always have to keep their defense up. Form 2, or Makashi, came about after early Jedi came across other Force practitioners with sabers. As according to the lore, the Sith came up with the lightsaber first, and then the Jedi refined the design. So dueling is the priority of this form. So it bears the similarity to modern fencing, not just due to Christopher Lee being an expert sword fighter and fencer, and Count Dooku is canonically a master of Form 2, but also because now that the lightsaber is refined to not have the exterior battery, they were allowed more dexterity dexterity and refinery with the weapon, a greater reach. Without the wire, a looser stance to not have to cover the battery pack. More speed overall because you're not carrying the great big battery around with you. Form 3, or Surisu, a form used by characters such as... Hello there. This form was developed as blasters became more prevalent.
What we notice as we keep going along here is that there is a real sense of progression and continuity when it comes to these forms and stances, which is a nice bit of world building in terms of the start of the lore of the franchise, because we have Form 1, which is very much the basics, the foundations. Then you come to dueling, as lightsabers themselves become more prominent and as the need for dueling becomes more apparent, and then Form 3 we get to the blasters.
So it seems almost like it's a direct progression of Form 1, especially the need to cover the body more, keep a tight stance and have a priority on defense. Form 4 is Ataru. According to the lore, practitioners of Form 4 use the Force to extend their acrobatic ability and basically become a tornado on crack. See Yoda in the prequels for more details. It probably has the real-world parallel of practice of the Jian sword, especially in Wushu or Tai Chi. I would like to mention that at parts of Yoda's fight with Count Dooku in Episode 2, that it looks as though Yoda does a couple of butterfly kicks, which are common in Wushu and Chinese martial arts overall.
But what's interesting about Form 4, which would link to the Jian, is that it creates more accessibility to more flexible and more unpredictable movements, creating more very targeting, more unprecedented angles.
Form 5 has two variations. Jian, which is kind of an extension of Form 3 by deflecting and redirecting blaster shots, while Diamso, the second variation, is more combat and dueling based, tending to use strength, power and activity. Certainly does sound very aggressive. Why, just ask a master, Anakin Skywalker.
Somehow that's not so surprising.
This form has the most similarity to the use of Dao swords when paired with Northern Shaolin, where the focus is on wide sweeping, aggressive movements, slashing through and overpowering opponents rather than being agile and confronting a practitioner at a different angle. Let's pause at this point and take a look at these weapons and forms from the perspective of a martial artist. And while I am certainly not a sword expert, unlike a certain other YouTuber this video is derivative of, I don't know who you're talking about. You sure? I mean, you've referenced him in another video. Fake news, idiot.
This is the main problem that exists when it comes to lightsabers, or at least my own personal problem with them from a martial artist's perspective. So, really, the main issue with them is that, really it's the most obvious one. You can't touch the blade. Now, that seems like the most obvious flaw in their design, and it's kind of the point. But when you really think about it, that opens up a whole can of worms, especially when you're actually trying to think about how to actually use them as a weapon. So, let's do a hypothetical. Let's say that that you need to block an attack. So let's say it's an attack coming downwards, so it's a downward strike coming down on you, okay? So let's say you're blocking, okay? Let's say this is the lightsaber, so I'm not touching the blade, I can only put my hands on here, the handle. Okay? So I've got all my strength is over here, and there's one half of the weapon. Okay? If that sword is if that other lightsaber or whatever is coming down in the exact center of the blade, they've got this whole other half of the weapon that's going to just give out when they put all their force down on it. And so suddenly that creates give. Now granted, you could easily parry that shot and go into another blow, or into another strike, but the point is that leaves you open to attack toward a flaw. Whereas, if you're in that same motion and you've got a sword where you can actually touch the blade, you can evenly distribute the weight by actually placing your hand on the blade. And so suddenly, the weight is evenly distributed, and you can easily control the trajectory of that blow, of that force, and go into another strike and control that motion. Whereas if you've got all your force here, if you've got all your energy directed here, you've got this whole other half that's just going to give out on you, and suddenly you're going to be out of the control of the situation. Another problem comes up, and this is still in the realm of defense and blocking, but it's the same problem. You can't touch the blade, and this comes into more of a factor when we consider physics and that force and velocity is a thing. Okay? So let's say we're doing a standard, we're going into a standard block, okay? And we would have the sword here, okay? If you notice, I'm resting the blade on my shoulder. This creates a triangular shape, and this causes the force of that blow to be distributed, okay? So, sure, it hurts my shoulder a little bit to block like that, but it's not going into my head. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret, the head is kind of more important than the shoulder. So, but I can do that with the sword because I can touch the sword. I'm able to put the flat of the sword's blade against my shoulder, block the force of the blow, and what do you know? My head is safe. Hallelujah. But then if we come to that same situation and we've got the lightsaber, sure, I can block like this, it's not touching my shoulder's fine, but because it's just hanging about in the air, it's going to get moved by the force of that blow. So, it comes back around and bam, it gets me in the shoulder. I'm very much more grievously injured because a lightsaber hurts like hell. Because it's basically a laser, so that's my shoulder down, and because the force of that blow was not stopped, it's probably going to go into my head, so I'm dead.
There's more to discuss, but let's take a look at the last two forms.
Form 6, or Niemann, is what's called the diplomat's form. It seems that it's the more modern conglomeration of the first 5 into a more balanced and contemporary art.
So it's the lightsaber equivalent of MMA?
Form 7, or Juyo. This form seems like a mixture of forms 4 and 5, with the unpredictable acrobatics mingled with the aggressive or powerful strikes. This form was the one used by Mace Windu.
So I should now christen this the motherfucker technique.
It's noted that Form 7 requires mastery of multiple forms before practicing, as it requires more flexibility in terms of strategy and also requires more focus. It should also be noted that Darth Maul practiced Form 7 and created a variation of it for his double-bladed lightsaber.
So in the broad strokes, the concept of the weapon is pretty simple. It's basically just two swords linked together, which does offer some benefit. It has greater reach, for one thing, and for another thing, there is far more depth of flexibility and different angling with the weapon. Compared to a regular sword, yeah, sure, you could just swing like that, like a regular sword, etc. But if you have two swords attached together, then you have far more range and flexibility with the weapon. But the problem that lies with that sort of weapon is that it goes back to the same sort of problem that we find with lightsabers. You can't touch the blade, and that becomes a problem because it limits just how much you can do with the weapon. Because if we do a bit of compare and contrasting and compare the double-bladed lightsaber to something of comparable size, such as, say, the staff or even the spear, you find that there's not as much flexibility as you would find with the weapon, because sure, the reach for the double-bladed lightsaber, let's say that here to here is the hilt, range, okay, there's more reach than a regular sword, but with a staff, there's a noticeable difference. But it's not just in terms of reach. There's far more flexibility that you can have with a staff compared to the double-bladed lightsaber, because sure, double-bladed, yep, got good range of flexibility. But now, if we have the staff,
I think though, what becomes the greatest problem for the lightsaber is that it becomes a danger to the user.
Let's say you had a broom, and that broom was marketed as the best on the market, cleans up super well, no mess, etc. Except, when you get that broom, it has nails and spikes going through the handle that stab you every time you use it. Is it still a great broom then? No, in fact it's a worse product because it becomes dangerous to use. As soon as it becomes a danger, any other factors go out the window because you can't use it without risking your health.
But if I could give my overall roundup of the lightsaber, does it still have merit?
It does have real-world parallels, and if you look around online, there are fencing and swordplay communities that learn how to use the lightsaber.
Does it still therefore have merit as an actual weapon? No!
The problems with the sword come up when you start to think about actually using it. Sure, it does look cool, but it's limited by the things that make it cool. The lightsaber is limited in terms of grip, with a blade you can't touch. Even swords were blunt closer to the hilt for more grip. The reach, when you compare the double-bladed lightsaber to the staff, it's a huge limitation. Not to mention that the lightsaber is dangerous to the user precisely because of the things that make it cool.
So if I could give my final thoughts on this topic, let's say you have two sword masters, both of equal levels of mastery and practice. One has a lightsaber, the other has a sword which has been forged from a material that lightsabers cannot cut through. It has two higher melting points or boiling points, etc. Those exist within the canon. So let's say these two practitioners duke it out, a sword versus a lightsaber on even ground. Which comes out on top? Thank you for watching this week's video, and in the comments let me know if you could have any weapon from fiction, so from fantasy, sci-fi, etc. Which weapon would it be and why? And again, thank you all for watching, and until next time everyone, peace be with you.